Obligatory 2016 sucked statement. "2016 was a pretty big year for me. Got back into making videos, graduated from high school, started college. I mean, sure, it may have been a pretty crappy year, but I'm not going to pretend it didn't have its upsides for me, especially when it came to games. While I did miss out on some big releases this year, some I'm pretty grateful for missing out on, I managed to get my hands on some amazing games this year. So I figured, why not ring off the new year with my first ever countdown? Is what I would say if I actually got this thing out in early January, but can't always hit the mark. Only worlds for this list are one per franchise, and that, while they don't necessarily have to have came out last year, 2016 has to be the year where I first played it. So, with all that said and done, let's kick it off. Fire Emblem Awakening was one of the best JRPGs that I ever played. It had more accessibility for filthy casuals like myself, an avatar with loads of options for customization, and enjoyable support conversations that encourage experimentation. It was amazing. So when I found out about Fire Emblem Fates, with it being most of what Awakening had and more, I was stoked. And while I still prefer Awakening, I don't think I'm going to be forgetting about Fates, primarily Birthright, anytime soon. Fire Emblem Fates has the same turn-based strategy system that the series is known for, but has plenty of cool new additions in it. The duel system that Awakening introduced got redesigned, with it being split into guard stance if the units are paired up, to defend against attacks after a gauge is filled, and attack stance for when the units are next to each other for follow-up attacks. This made the duel system feel a lot less random than it was in Awakening, and with enemies also able to use these two stances, it can really keep you on your toes. And the newly introduced Dragon Veins were also a welcome addition. Certain characters can activate these for a variety of effects depending on the chapter, such as altering the map or creating spots to regenerate the health of your units, adding an extra layer of strategy. And while I feel that the story is a bit lackluster, the conflict between the main character and their adoptive siblings from the Kingdom of Nur certainly helps that issue. Their interactions make this game for me, with the hurt and anger shown by them when Corrin goes against Nur and sides with Horseeater, the revelations from Leo about how he's always resented Corrin, and Xander deciding to atone for himself by essentially tricking you into killing him. The turmoil that Corrin goes through when facing their Nurian siblings, along with their attempts at reconciliation with them, are some of the best moments of the game for me. Almost makes up for how the iconic decision for which side you pick is essentially forced onto you by what game you buy rather than an actual in-game decision. Actually, no, not really. When it comes to Final Fantasy games, I tend to lose interest in them fairly quickly. Played Final Fantasy IV, stopped playing a few days later. Played Final Fantasy V, stopped playing after a couple of hours. Played Final Fantasy VI and stopped playing even sooner than 5. It's not like I disliked any of them, I just lost interest. With Final Fantasy IX, though, my interest in it is still pretty strong. One reason I really enjoyed FF9 was all the things that happen in between moving from location to location. The story will have you go through a fair amount of fun extra stuff to do in between saving the world. Participating in a hunting challenge, setting up dinner, getting married, or just exploring the area you're in. All of them provide a bit of a break from the main plot for the player and provide some entertaining moments or good development for the characters. They don't feel like they're forced in and leave at just the right moment before they overstay its welcome. The core gameplay of the game was also pretty solid. It kept the good old turn-based combat that most FF games have while adding a few neat new features. The characters learn skills through certain pieces of equipment, and they have to keep those pieces of equipment on them to use that skill until they master it. It's a neat way to give weapons and armor some value other than stats alone, giving you incentive to actually equip items that would be inferior to others that you have stat-wise. The trance system, while a bit frustrating since you enter an enhanced state automatically after a gate's filled up, I still really enjoyed it for how much the effects will differ from character to character. One character would get a lot of cool, flashy moves, but another character would be able to make an attack twice in one turn, for example. The game also has a huge amount of comedy and charm to enjoy, mixed in with the more tragic and dark moments. The game doesn't feel overbearingly lighthearted, and it didn't feel too melodramatic either, not hurt by how lovable most of the main characters are. It's pretty low on the list because I'm not too far into the game yet as of scripting, and there's still a lot of things I find frustrating about this game, like the abysmally low steal rates or the previously mentioned trash system occurring automatically. But overall, I'm really looking forward to what the rest of the game will be like. Hopefully it won't be shit. I've wanted to play games from the Infamous series for quite a long time. A sandbox game where you get superpowers and can impact the story with your choices? Sign me up! And after getting Infamous Second Son, man was I satisfied. You play as L.A Noire, a troublemaking graffiti artist who, after coming in contact with a superpowered human called a conduit, gains the ability to control and manipulate smoke by accidentally copying his powers. A series of unfortunate events later, almost everybody in Delsin's tribe are wounded and left to die from the concrete powers of the main villain, Augustine, leaving Delsin and his brother Reggie to head to Seattle for Delsin to copy her powers and save the lives of the people in their tribe. One of the best things about this game is its protagonist, Delsin. Nearly every moment he opens his mouth is a good time for me. There are several times where he knows when to take things seriously and he cares deeply for his brother and his tribe, but for the most part, he's a fun-loving, sarcastic delinquent who, after getting used to them, really enjoys having powers.
Ah, seem to be getting the hang of your, new symptoms, right?
And of course, the only downside being that, nope, can't think of anything. This is pretty freaking awesome.
And man, I can't blame him for that. The powers in this game are a blast to use, ranging from smoke, neon, video, and concrete. They hardly feel like it's the same power with a different skin like it so easily could have been. Skills vary from power to power, with skill chains for each one. Some skills are only accessible with good or bad karma that you can get through choices in the story or how you handle NPCs, so you can make your next playthrough feel incredibly different from your first. Upgrading a power to make it even more useful is the second most satisfying experience I get in its gameplay. The most obviously being kicking ass and blowing stuff up with the powers. Add in how there's plenty of side missions to do that makes the main villain lose control of Seattle with each one completed, along with how the game is simply amazing to look at, and you've got yourself a solid game that's definitely worth trying out. Just like with Final Fantasy, I tend to lose interest in the main games of the Pokemon series pretty quickly. I don't know, but with the exception of Silver, everyone I played so far started to feel a bit repetitive and tedious for me eventually, and I couldn't bring myself to finish them. So when I got Pokemon Moon, I expected it to turn out the same way. I'm so happy I was wrong. Pokemon Sun and Moon got rid of nearly every reason I couldn't get into the main series Pokemon games. The need to grind is much less prominent with the new EXP sale. The need to teach Pokemon worthless HMs is gone with the inclusion of rideable Pokemon, and it has a story and characters that I actually give a shit about. That last reason on its own would make me want to keep on going, but those other few reasons certainly made the experience a lot better for me. Along with that, the island challenges rather than gym leader formula is definitely a welcome change in my eyes. Every trial captain and kahuna are memorable and likable, with each trial feeling different enough to stand out from the others. And the battles against the totem Pokemon make for some of the most epic battles in the series. Plus, instead of badges for completing them, you get crystals allowing you to use some awesome superpowered moves for your Pokemon. The presentation of the game is amazing, the music's an absolute joy to listen to, plenty of the new Pokemon are interesting, especially the alolan forms of Kanto Pokemon, and plenty of the battles are incredibly enjoyable. This was a great time all around, and I hope other generations follow in its example. I've played a couple of Telltale's choice-based games, and for what they are, I really enjoy them. All of them have really intense moments, some good drama, and thought-provoking choices that would make me want to replay the game to try out some other options. Fuck the ending for Game of Thrones though, hated that ending. So naturally, when I found out about Tales from the Borderlands, I decided to get my hands on it, and it made its way into being my favorite choice-based Telltale game. Like most Telltale games after The Walking Dead, Tales from the Borderlands has a choice-based system where the player can decide what actions the playable characters, Hyperion employee Reese and Pandoran con artist Fiona, will make throughout the game. Some are minor and inconsequential, but several will do things like affect your relationships with other characters, impact how scenes will play out or if they'll even be in there, and in one case, be the deciding factor for which one of two completely different beginnings for an episode that you'll get. Along with that, the action and writing of this game are amazing. The action scenes are fun, suspenseful, memorable, and despite how lengthy a lot of them were, I never felt like I wanted them to hurry up and end. And in terms of writing, I've got to say that this is probably the funniest game that I played this year. Be it a sarcastic quip from one of the characters, or some really entertaining dark humor, almost every joke that the game had to offer hit bullseye for me. There are things that Telltale has done that I'm still sour about, but this game will make forgiving them quite a bit easier. First-person shooters generally aren't my cup of tea. With the exception of Team Fortress 2, I usually get turned off after a couple of minutes. So it took me a while before I finally got interested enough in Overwatch to buy it. I am so glad I did. With almost 24 different heroes to play as, there's a plethora of different playstyles for you to choose from, even for somebody who's not into most shooters like me. Not a fan of playing as a sniper? You can play as a trap-setting mad bomber. Don't like playing as a cyborg ninja? What the fuck is wrong with you? It's a fucking cyborg ninja! With each hero feeling incredibly different from the rest, you can keep trying out different heroes for a long time, and I love it when a game encourages experimentation like that, especially when so many of them are incredibly fun to play as. Another great thing about Overwatch is its emphasis on teamwork. With the rather small maximum amount of people that can be on a team, I rarely felt like any accomplishments I made were inconsequential. You play a huge role in deciding whether or not your team succeeds or fails, and it encouraged me to try and improve myself, both for getting more loot boxes and so that I could be more useful in matches. And with Blizzard frequently adding new features, be it characters, maps, or game modes, I don't think I'm gonna stop playing this game for a long time. Demons have fascinated me for over a decade, so I typically get at least slightly interested in a series that revolves around them. My brother let me play a game called Shin Megami Tensei 4 a couple of years ago, and I loved it to death, so it's kind of a no-duh that I would get hyped when I found out there was going to be a follow-up to it. Taking place in the same setting as Megami Tensei 4, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse starts off strong with the main character getting killed by demons only to be revived by a demon named Dagda, who wants you to work for him as his God Slayer. That title is kind of self-explanatory. After the strong beginning, it only goes uphill from there, dealing with multiple enemy factions, finding out more of what Dagda's intentions are, unraveling multiple truths of what's occurring, and leading you to decide what the fate of the universe will be are all so satisfying. The villains are incredibly enjoyable. They bring intensity to almost every scene they're in, and I love to hate these guys. The allies are also great. Plenty of them go through inner turmoil, some nice character development, and are overall really enjoyable characters. Even allies I hated at first I grew to like over time. The heroes of this game are a lot more interesting than in 4. And if you enjoyed the gameplay in 4, then you'll enjoy it in Apocalypse. Recruiting demons to your side, fusing them together to create even stronger demons, strategically exploiting the weaknesses of your enemies to get in more turns, and some really difficult moments if you're not on your toes. And there's a fair amount of improvements to the gameplay from 4 as well. Light and dark magic are much more practical since they can actually do damage even if they don't insta-kill. Demons benefit more from skills they specialize in, and the partner system, man has it gotten an upgrade. Actually being able to choose which partner you take into battle, knowing what skills they have, having them capable of leveling up alongside the protagonist, the partners are much more useful than in 4. And with their AI being a lot smarter, significantly less frustrating to deal with. You know, I think it's fair to call Apocalypse my favorite JRPG to date. It frequently had me craving for more, and both gameplay and story-wise, is a hell of a ride. Grand Theft Auto 5 might not have the superpowers that sandbox games I played like Second Son or Saints Row 4 have, but it more than makes up for it with the huge amount of freedom that it offers the player. Wanna break into an airport and crash a plane? You can do that. Wanna see how many people you can kill within a certain amount of time? You can do that. Wanna play golf? You can do that. I would spend hours on end just exploring the overworld and doing whatever it had to offer for me. Be it movies, races, or just creating chaos instead of making any actual progress. But it's not as if I didn't enjoy playing the missions themselves. The missions are loads of fun and have a ton of variation. They seldom felt stale or uninspired, and some even have multiple ways to accomplish them. And man, some of these missions can get incredibly intense when they want to. Oh, and remember when I said that Tales from the Borderlands was the funniest game I played this year? Well, GTA 5 comes so close that it violates Tales' personal space.
I kinda got a little angry.
Did you kill him?
What kind of fucking animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him, but I did kidnap his wife.
Oh no! Oh shit!
The 3 main protagonists are all incredibly likable, and each face their own problems to deal with in the story. With all of them having different special skills, a variety of their own missions, and their own set of strengths and weaknesses, they all feel different to play as, making it pretty fun to just switch from character to character, especially on missions when they're working together. Add in all the fun side quests, gold medals to get during missions, and an online mode for even more missions, and there'll still be a lot more fun waiting for the player even after completing the main story. Gurren Lagann existed. Okay, obvious reference out of the way, let's talk about Kirby. When I found out about Kirby Planet Robobot, I felt it was an obligation for me to play it. Come on, this adorable puffball is in a fighting bag. How can you not want to play that? The Robobot armor is a lot stronger than Kirby, as one would probably guess. It can copy the ability of enemies like Kirby can, and it's even used for some decent puzzle solving, like moving certain blocks to keep an electrical current going, or creating miniature exploding robots to destroy blocks or activate switches you couldn't normally reach. And it is incredibly satisfying to destroy everything in your path inside the Robobot armor. But don't think that the armor sections are the only good part about this game. Kirby by himself also has some pretty cool puzzles, like controlling a robotic copy of himself via remote control, or destroying parts of the background with a 3D laser bar that returns from Triple Deluxe. There are also 3 new copy abilities, all of them which are a blast to play. And there's a few moments where you play as Kirby, switch to his Robobot armor, and back to Kirby again, and vice versa, making for some really fun moments. The bosses of this game are amazing. Planet Robobot probably has my favorite boss roster out of any platformer game I played, period. And there are a lot of extra modes for you to do, like the Tour Arena, playing as Meta Knight, or even a co-op action RPG. And the game keeps the utter adorableness that the Kirby series is known for. This is a must-buy if you have a 3DS, especially if you're a Kirby fan. With Ace Attorney being my favorite franchise, I wasn't too surprised that I would like Spirit of Justice enough to put it on this list, but I still wasn't expecting it to be such an amazing game. Spirit of Justice offers most of what you'd expect from an Ace Attorney game: epic court trials, investigations to get more information, shocking twists, hilarious moments, tragic moments, some brain-scratching cross-examinations. It's all there. However, Spirit of Justice adds this new mechanic called divination seances. In a few trials, you'll get to see the memory of the victim during their final moments, what they saw, felt, heard, stuff like that. Finding contradictions between the memories and how they were interpreted is pretty fun, and can really put you on edge when defending your clients, because these memories can look pretty damning for them. The corrupt system in the Kingdom of Kurain, along with how it's rated even more against the defense than in previous Ace Attorney games, makes for some heavy atmosphere. This is shown especially in the first trial, with literally all of the jury calling out for the deaths of Phoenix and a 9-year-old boy. The trials taking place in America are still great, but the stakes are incredibly high during the Kurain trials, and it makes moments where you're backed in a corner all the more suspenseful. What else makes this game an amazing experience? Apollo getting a lot of focus and becoming more interesting than he was in his own game, the return of forensic analysis, the possibly most despicable villain in the franchise, and bringing everything you know about the case together to realize the truth at the end of the trial, creating an incredible feeling of satisfaction when you unravel the mystery. God damn, is this game fun to play! My new favorite game in the franchise, Spirit of Justice is more than worthy of taking the #1 spot.